Greeting once again. It's a pleasure to be back and it's a pleasure to be having this conversation with you. Today I'm going to reflect on a topic that is very critical and actually a pertinent aspect of all the things that we do in our day-to-day lives. And this is an issue around governance. And I'm looking at governance not only from governance of at every other level, but looking at it as corporate governance within institutions that are mandated and actually given the responsibility to execute on particular functions and responsibilities on behalf of others. And therefore, that is now what is going to link us to the aspect of the corporate governance from a point of what is the board leadership requirement, what is the expectation of you as a board member in delivering on your mandate in that organization, and ensuring that you fulfill your mandate and you fulfill your mission in supporting the company or the organization to do what it needs to do. And I look at this from a point of corporate governance as a fiduciary duty. And we have to do more when we are entrusted with the responsibility and the authority to serve in different boards of organizations where we're serving. I'll look at it from a reflection on my personal life and my personal journey. I was honored to serve as a board member within the Kenya Association of Pharmaceutical Industry. That was for the last 3 years or so. That was from 2021 to 2022. During that period, I had the opportunity to learn on corporate governance, get to go through training programs, but most importantly, to participate in the day-to-day running of the affairs of the organization from a board level. And one key thing that people sometimes confuse in terms of board governance is in the board, you help shape the strategy, you manage stakeholder engagement, but then you have an administrative team led by the CEO, the executive director, who does the day-to-day running of the activity. Your role as a board is to help de-risk the company, shape the strategy, and inform in terms of making decision on where things need to move from where it is into the next level and into the next frontier for a robust ways of working for the company to achieve its successes, to achieve its mission, or whatever that could look like. And therefore, when you look at the board, you're bringing in people who will steer the ship and give you the strategic vantage point. And the essence of board governance normally comes from the understanding that when I'm the person running the company, oftentimes there will always be some level of an objectivity in terms of biases that we all have. And human beings are accustomed to having biases. So if I'm the CEO and I'm evaluating my own performance, I will be biased in that evaluation. But when I have a team of leaders who are authoritative enough and actually are distant from the day-to-day running of the organization, they have an eagle's eye view to what's happening in the company, but also have an understanding of what the aspiration or the strategic viewpoint and advantage of where we're moving to is. So then their role is to say, okay, if this is what the strategy agreed on was, and this is what you're doing today, are they aligned? And what are the areas of disconnect? What are the areas of improvement that we need to put in the work? And that is the essence of having a strategic board. But they're also there to hold you accountable and to put in mechanism to support the CEO to deliver on their mission. That is a key bit about the board governance mechanisms. So why is this conversation today important? In the last couple of months since I came back from my studies, I've engaged with different leadership positions, different forums, and different engagements. One of the most important for me is the one that I'm serving as a member of the election board vetting committee with the Kenya Medical Association, SACCO. And in this level is looking at, okay, what is the board governance? What are the mechanisms? And how do we vet the candidates to ensure that they fulfill the requirements as per the law of the country? But most importantly, they will be the right candidates to lead the organization in terms of meeting the members' objectives, driving the proper governance of the circle, and getting us to the next level. It has been an enlightening moment, but also an opportunity for me to aspire to do more and aspire to strengthen more governance across the different organizations and the different entities that I work with. That is a part of my experience. And I remember having conversation with the lawyers, the representative of the cooperative, and asking them, okay, this is what's happening. I think we're in a good position, but we need to do more and actually get to the next level. And mostly I would look at it from a point of how do we ensure that alternative skill sets can be brought into the board? Because when you're looking at a board that is constituted by members of a single profession, there's always the bias. We need finance people, we need legal persons and all that. So then there's more that we need to bring into the fold. How do we bring that into the governance, not in the operation as employees of the company? And I think those are some of the things that I was looking at. But then when we'll move away from all those conversations and everything, yesterday I listened to a disturbing audio recording and I read a couple of media briefs and media articles that are really disturbing. And this is with regard to the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentist Council, which is the regulatory authority mandated to license premises and to license practitioners in the country, and most importantly, to regulate the practice of medical practitioners, that is doctors and dentists, in that field of practice, which is important. And therefore, when you look at it as a healthcare professional within the medical fraternity, patients come to us with trust and that commitment that they know they are going to get the best service and the best quality of outcomes at the end of the day when they are seen by you as a doctor. And on that account, the regulator's mandate in that specific domain of work is to ensure that all the requisite obligations are met. The board has to ensure that the operations of the organization are meeting the standards in terms of, are you training the right people? They are socialized professionally to be the right talent for that domain. Are they good in terms of competency at the end of their training? When they are employed, do they have the right resourcing? Do the facilities meet the standards of what is expected? And in case of any malpractices or any findings that might be affecting human outcomes in terms of treatment outcomes, how do we mitigate for this? How do we address this? That is an important authority, and therefore the question you ask yourself, what do we expect of a board of such an institution? We expect high level of integrity, diligence, and values, and therefore then we need to do better. From the video that I was listening to and actually seeing the claims and the allegations that are coming out in the media, if a board can be keen on being bribed and taking money to actually avoid accountability and holding the culprits accountable in case where there's medical negligence, then the question the public would be asking is, who do we trust? And this is the most unfortunate piece is, this is a board that is governed by the same practitioners, the same professionals. So if you are a doctor governing how other doctors practice and you're already involved in corrupt dealings, how will the patient trust you to do the right thing when you're in the ward and actually the one looking out for them? These are questions we must ask ourselves. There's a substantial duty of care that is bestowed upon us as professionals, as leaders, as individuals in the different domains where we practice. When you look at the general baseline of what board governance and corporate governance looks like, you have to do better and you must do better as a professional. But on this other level, when you actually now put it to the context of the medical practice, as a doctor, as a healthcare professional, people trust you with their care. People come to you at their most vulnerable moment. In case of any failures and any, I would say, negative outcomes, these are things that eventually they do happen. By the nature of everything, sometimes things go wrong. They will happen, they might happen, and it is your responsibility to take responsibility and to be accountable for them. When there's a medical negligence reporting, the authority mandated to oversee and actually investigate and address these concerns must take the responsibility and do the right thing. When they are actually implicated in kind of corrupt dealings and actually trying to undermine the due process, there's a question that needs to be asked. And the question that I would be asking is, where are we as a society? What is our value system? And when we get people into governance mandate, how does that work? And when I look at this video, the recording that I was listening to, there are key things that are not right for me. Number one, in board governance, you make strategic decisions. You do, or maybe it's a tribunal that must make a decision on how the case will be addressed. If there's a disciplinary issue, the disciplinary committee exists. Let the disciplinary committee review the case, make findings, and actually propose its recommendations. After that, there is no business for the committee engaging with the culprit or the suspect in this particular context. So when this person is already engaging and you're a member of the board, the question is, what is the delineation of your responsibility and scope of function? Because that report should come from the CEO, who is the operational engine of the organization, but also interfacing with the board at that level. That is already a lapse in judgment and a lapse in accountability for the work that was happening. Number two, when you go to in terms of the actual discussion of what's happening, okay, this one we can help, this one we cannot help. Is that the decision of the board? And is it your prerogative to negotiate and discuss this with the person outside of the confines of the engagement? These are flaws in our governance system, and we have a value system that is eroding. As a society, we need to do better. And when we understand that we are entrusted with the responsibility and the duty of care to look out for others, we should do better and we need to do more. And I would say from this conversation, from some of the highlights that I'm seeing in the ecosystem, there's a lot of work that needs to put in place. Most organizations fail not because of not good employees, incompetent employees or other, not because of failures in their systems, but it's a failure in the governance, the architecture. Because the board imbues the values of the organization on how it is done. If you are board taking a bribe, how do you know that the other people who are licensing the operational team will not take bribes or just license anybody to practice? And in this country, we've had quacks who are masquerading as doctors, clinicians, whatever it is. So how do we ensure that the people operating do not do the wrong things when the board is actually the one who should hold them accountable and also culpable to the same mistakes and the same undoings? Those are key questions that we need to ask ourselves. So the value system comes from the board to the management and to the teams in the operational engine of the organization. That is a flawed system. And two, the other question is, what are the modalities of engagement and what are the processes? I would say this case exposes a rot in our corporate governance systems as a country, as institutions, as individuals, and we need to reflect substantially, critically, and ask ourselves, what do we aspire for? And what would good look like in that context? I don't think that what is we're seeing in the ecosystem is what should good look like, and therefore we need to do better and we need to do more. Thank you for the engagement and for the conversation. If you feel like this is a topic you'll be glad to contribute to, do shoot me a message, write in the comments, and I'll be glad to reach out to you. If you enjoy the conversation, subscribe to the channel, share it with somebody who might find value in it, and most importantly, let us build a community of people who are willing to hold each other accountable and support each other towards the society that we aspire and wish for. Thank you and have a good one.